Hello and welcome to For Fox's Sake. My name is Pete Selby. Alongside me is Rob Hayes and Jono Towers. Welcome to For Fox's Sake, the preview, and we're talking all things FA Cup because it's Cheltenham Town against Leicester City this coming Saturday. And this coming Saturday at the 12:15 kickoff. I think it's one of the earlier kickoffs. The kickoffs now in the FA Cup, they're all over the place. But we're going to be talking about the cup game this coming weekend, and we'll just touch on the West Brom game from Monday night as well. But just at the start of the podcast, just to direct you once again to forfox8.news. Plenty of content on there, plenty of fantastic articles, opinion pieces, features as well. I know the top 100 has gone down a storm. The top 100 Leicester City players. We're working our way through those. There's some really interesting pieces regarding some new signings because they've had the break in the WSL, so Leicester City women. There's some new signings being made, so plenty of information there. There's some really interesting podcasts coming up regarding the women's side, and also again who they're signing in this transfer window. Also regarding our own transfer window with the Leicester City men's side as well, how some loan signings have been getting on, etc. And also what we need some really interesting pieces on fox8.news. Head over there right now. And don't forget to subscribe. It's only £5 a month, and you get all that wonderful content, and you can see it now on forfox8.news. So head there after you finish watching or listening to the podcast. Remember, you can listen to For Fox's Sake. All of our podcasts are on Spotify, on SoundCloud, etc., on Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to your podcast, you'll find us on there. And something I've not said for a long time, Rob, please give us a rating as well. You can rate us on YouTube. You can rate us on Apple Podcasts, etc. Wherever you listen or watch, do make sure you rate us. And then also head over to forfox8.news. And if you have subscribed, make sure you do tell your friends as well. Now, I've been busy in the last few minutes just updating all of our socials. So you can get hold of us on Instagram, on TikTok, also on Facebook as well. But enough about all the adverts. Rob, how are you? And do you look at the FA Cup? Before we touch on West Brom, I just want to know, did you get a little bit excited with the FA Cup draw? Because the third round draw is one of the great moments of the football season. Doesn't matter what you're doing in the league, doesn't matter what league you're doing it in as well. The FA Cup draw should be something special. I think it still is.
Yeah, I agree. I think the third round of the FA Cup is the most iconic round of arguably the most iconic cup competition in world football. So we're privileged in that respect that the world kind of watches on and that we get to be part of it. And yeah, especially us being in the Championship and us not being very good, it meant that the draw was quite interesting because as long as you don't pull out a Championship team, anything else is actually going to be something that you can sort of turn your mind to and turn your attention away from the league. You know, if we would have pulled out a Premier League club, it would have been a good opportunity either to see Premier League players again at the King Power Stadium or travel to an away day. But the fact that we've pulled out a League Two side, it's just interesting, really, isn't it, to see how we get on. Are we going to be smiling at the end of it because we've actually looked like a half-decent team against a team from two divisions lower? Or are we going to be walking out there laughing at how laughably bad it was? Who knows? But it's more interesting, I think, than the sort of dredge of the week-by-week Championship football we've had to sit through so far.
Yeah, and when we come on to the game, I've got some interesting thoughts on the game, which kind of slightly go against my principles with the FA Cup. But we'll just go to the FA Cup. We'll put that to one side for 2 or 3 minutes because breaking news here on For Fox's Sake, and that is that Jono Towers, I hear that you've just thawed out from the game against West Bromwich Albion on Monday night. How are your toes, Jono?
Yeah, bit of frostbite, has to be said. It was absolutely Baltic down there the other night. Myself and James were down there. Yeah, absolutely perished. Yeah, it's probably as cold as I've ever been at a football match, to be honest.
But you were rewarded with a winner at the end. You stayed.
Yeah. We stayed because it was 1-1, and although we were being peppered left, right, and centre, we were still in the game, and there was still some hope in my mind that, you know, maybe it would be worth sitting there freezing my ass off. And in the end, yeah, Fatu, who made it worthwhile, you know, in the last minute. So
What I
yeah,
want to know though, what I want to know though, John, really is obviously the goal was fantastic at the end from Vitaru, and I was watching on TV along with many people because A, it was too cold, and B, there was the boycott going on. And that's what I want to know from you when you went there, and for someone who's been down the KP for many a year and seen the stadium pretty much 90% of the time, 90 or more percent full.
yeah.
How strange was it to see a league game, and obviously on a Monday night as well, you know, a big game against West Brom, but how strange was it to see so many empty seats? I don't know your points of view with you were there, the eyes on the ground.
Yeah. The atmosphere was definitely flatter, considerably flatter than normal. There was still, you know, a half decent atmosphere in and around the singing section, which is where I am. But yeah, there were lots of chants from the away end about, you know, football in a library, etc., which is, you know, the usual chant that comes from that end anyway. I think at the KP we always get that at most games, but yeah, most of the union lot, what they called
Union FS.
Union FS lot, are boycotted by the looks of it, because they all sit not far from me, just a block away, and where they bang the drum and have the banners and whatnot, all of that area was empty, which is, to be fair, where a lot of the noise comes from, in that area of the ground. So that did make a considerable difference. And yeah, looking around the stadium, certainly down at the family end, that was less than half full, I would suggest. And all in all, I think that it was reported there was 27,000 people there, but I can report from my own eyes, there's no way that the stadium was 27,000 people. I would hazard a guess at probably half capacity, somewhere in and around 16,000 maybe, is my guess. And I have heard a few people on the socials say that some of the police reports had come up with a figure of around about 16,000 attendance that day. So how they got 27, I'm not quite sure. I'm only surmising that they count the season ticket holders that don't turn up as an attendance. I'm not sure, but yeah, it was definitely muted for sure.
It's a strange sight, Rob, isn't it, to see the King Power so empty? And I thought actually it was a very, I mean, it helps that it was very, very cold as well. A lot of people would have stayed away for that. But when the boycott was muted and when it was mentioned, and if you go to fox8.news, you can see interviews with those who organised the boycott. You can see interviews and read interviews with the Foxes Trust as well that Andy has conducted. Some really interesting pieces there on for fox8.news. But with Rob, we're not Sheffield Wednesday, okay? When Sheffield Wednesday had the boycott earlier on in the season and there were fans turning up, I couldn't quite understand why, if you're a Sheffield Wednesday fan, you would turn up for that game because of the chaos surrounding that club. But with Leicester, I could understand if people wanted to stay away for the boycott. I understood if people wanted to stay away because of the weather, but also completely understand if you actually wanted to go and see the game. I was literally sitting on the fence. I've got splinters still now. But I think the boycotts was quite successful. I didn't think it would be as much. I thought if you were going to ask me for a prediction for the attendance, the real attendance, which we're going to put at say 16,000 or so, I thought it still would be in the mid to maybe low 20s.
Yeah, low 20s is what I would have gone with. It's a hard one to know because it seemed to gain it seemed to sort of appear very quickly, although the frustration that the fans have got and different fans groups have got with the ownership is not a new thing. The boycott was quite a recent idea, or publicly so it gained quite a surprising amount of traction in quite a short period of time. So from the point of view of the boycott organizers and those that decided to take part in it, then absolutely fine. And yeah, you would say that was a success because it was very, very noticeable how many empty seats there were. It's really rare, and we're very lucky as a club, it's very rare to see the King Power so empty for a competitive men's match. It's very, very rare that kind of attendance would dip under 20,000. And I saw something interesting actually from Jordan Blackwell at the Leicester Mercury. He said that although people are trying to sort of discount those from the boycott who chose not to go because it was cold or because it was a Monday night game or whatever, and actually he suggested that if those people were fully happy with what was happening on and off the pitch, then they probably would have forsaken the fact that it was freezing cold and it was a Monday night and would have gone down anyway. And actually, if you sat with that decision to make, and you, for the one, maybe if you're watching this or listening to this right now, maybe it was the first time you've sat there on a weeknight game when in the winter and gone, do you know what, I don't fancy it tonight. Jordan Blackwell argued that is kind of a boycott, whilst it's not necessarily you lending your name or yourself to the boycott organization. You are still choosing not to go based on a dissatisfaction with what you're seeing on the pitch or off the pitch. Just on the Sheffield Wednesday point, obviously Hillsborough's 10 minutes down the road from me. I know a lot of Sheffield Wednesday fans up here. So we've got to be very, very clear that we are nowhere near in as bad a position as Sheffield Wednesday were. Their owner had said categorically that no more money was going into the club. Wages weren't being paid on time at any point. There was that had gone a lot further than a bit of, I say a bit of mismanagement. I don't want to make light of people's opinions on King Power and on top and how the club's being run, but Sheffield Wednesday was on a whole new level and they had to take drastic action like that. I completely agree with you, Pete. I can see why a lot of Leicester fans, probably about 16, 17,000 of them, still went down on Monday night. And I think if I was a season ticket holder, I probably would have been there because I don't think I feel strongly enough at this stage about the running of the club that I would need to stay away. And I think that's a point that Jono makes really well on his fan opinion piece on forfoxsake.news, that maybe a little bit from his point of view, from our point of view at For Fox's Sake, I think me, you and Andy Peter are along the same lines of a little bit more patience. And this week we've been linked with a technical director, so more on that on forfoxsake.news as well. Andy's done a bit of a delve into who and what the role is. So yeah, there seems to be, there's at least rumors of some kind of movement behind the scenes, which means that I support your opinion at the moment, Jono, that a bit of patience maybe is required.
However, I think what I did also say in the article was that, you know, in the spirit of transparency and a new way of engaging with the fans, which is what Top communicated, I think a regular line of communication would be more than welcome. And I think that his update in November is probably now due an update on, not necessarily on specifics, but just to reassure fans that there are things going on. We are making progress in one way, shape or form. And just also maybe just to wish Happy New Year to all the fans. So that was a point I made as well. And I think that in the spirit of what he said, I think for me, it needs a semi-regular update from Top or someone at the board, just to, you know, update people on what's going on.
I would say something other than the program notes as well, because he has to write them. And I mean, does he write them? Probably not. The
communication team will be writing that. I'm absolutely
yeah, absolutely. And they have to go in the program. So something separate. I totally agree. Something that is completely bespoke. Happy New Year. This is what we talked about in November. Here's what we've done, or here's what we're doing. Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah.
Well, that's in the championship. But what we're going to do is we're going to take the championship here, chuck it over there. We're going to throw it over there because it's FA Cup weekend. Okay, it's different. I'm in a different room doing the podcast. Okay, I look a little bit like, if you're not watching, I look a little bit like a hostage situation going on here, with a plain white background. I don't like it. It's a slight echo as well. I apologise. I got really lazy. I was finishing off an article for Fox8.news in a nice comfy position, and then I thought, you know what, I'm going to film from here. Why not? We're talking all things Cheltenham, okay? So Cheltenham this weekend. So I want to know Rob and Jono, I want to know your selection for the champion hurdle, for the Gold Cup on the Friday. Who's going to win the cross country on the Thursday, and what young horse is going to win the Supreme Novices? Rob?
I think it's going to be Louis Page. Louis Page is going to be the winner this weekend at Cheltenham.
But in all seriousness, honestly, when you were going to ask me, Rob, about what your prediction is, and I was going to reel off a whole list of anti-post markets. But anyway, enough of that. In all realistic sense, Rob, I was listening today to a broadcast regarding the FA Cup weekend, and they were talking specifically about championship sides. So that was good. And also, and the fact that because the championship is the way it is at the moment, where every single side is either fighting off relegation or looking at promotion, which is normally the case, but I think this year it is certainly the case. I don't think there is one side in the league where you can look at and go, they are not within a chance of doing either. I mean, I know we're only in early January, so but anyway, when it comes to that, it means that there's a loss at stake, and it means that we, after a very busy period of football, that there's going to be a lot of championship clubs more than likely doing what we've seen with Premier League clubs over the last decade or more, and that's completely changed their side. And I believe that's the case, and I believe that there's going to be quite a few upsets, because I think there's going to be a fair few lower league sides looking at a championship opposition and thinking, well, we're going to be playing their youth team. And then when you look at the championship side from their point of view, you obviously want a cup run. And one question that of course we're going to ask ourselves is, does it matter? Does it matter if Leicester get knocked out this weekend because there's bigger fish to fry, or does a cup run go alongside an upturning form in the championship? But I think from our position, Rob, I think just a change side is needed, because I think the team is tired. I think there's players who can come in, which we'll obviously discuss. But also, I just think it's a chance for these youngsters to show, actually, we've got a misfiring first team, put me in. This is my chance to shine.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of names on the bench this season, haven't we? And coming off the bench and having a good impact in shorter spells. And then you've got the odd starter in Silko Thomas has had a run out. Monga's obviously started more than the rest of the younger players. Louis Page as well. I think it's a difficult situation because the Leicester squad is quite threadbare at the moment with injuries and a couple of players that are very much a la Marti Cifuentes on what you might call gardening leave, pretty much in the shop window. Well, not even in the shop window, in the back with a little sale tag on. So we're not got a huge amount of senior professionals. And does the game matter? Yes, it does, because at the minute, even though we won 2-1 on Monday night, it was a very, very difficult watch, and we didn't look very good at all. Managed to get another manager sacked, but that's by the by. But if we lose to a League Two side, regardless of what team starts the game, if a Leicester City team loses to a Cheltenham team, you're just giving more fuel to the negative fire. And if you win, I mean, I think I don't think we're going to go down there and completely wipe the floor with them and beat them 5-0. So it's just going to be a sort of another turgid, dragged out game. There's almost no way that Leicester fans, that the Leicester players can come out of this with any kind of credibility, really. I don't think.
It's an interesting game, Jono, and I kind of agree with Rob there. It's one of those games where when we're in the Premier League and you're playing down at lower league opposition, you make changes, and if you win 1-0, fine, because you might go on a run further on and take it more seriously, or put out a stronger side is probably the best way of looking at it. And I slightly disagree with Rob regarding it's a bit of a no-win situation. I think that's what you get when you are a Premier League side, because you just want to get through. But I think in Leicester's position, I just think when you've got, first of all, when you've got players coming back, so the likes of Patson Daka more than likely will lead the line after coming back from AFCON and coming off the bench against West Brom. You've got players who haven't played recently. Someone like a Yannick Vestergaard surely will just anchor the defence. You maybe will change the defence to bring the likes of Thomas on, etc. And then there's other players like Louis Page in the middle of the park who more than likely will start as well. So there's a chance to bring players back. There's a chance to blood young talents and maybe even further forward as well. And I just think in Leicester's situation, I think it's just going to be a bonus. And if they go down to Cheltenham and win 2 or 3-0 with some of the youngsters playing really well, I just can't see it being not being a bad thing, but I can see it just being a bonus, really. I look back on the game and go, this could be a game where we first see someone like a Page, and we're waiting for him really because we know he's an extreme talent, really talented, and a little bit like Monga. But we've seen Monga in the first team. We know what he's about. But with Page, I think we're waiting for those 1 or 2 performances where all of a sudden he gets to a different level. And I know we're playing against Cheltenham Town, but I think in his development, this will be a really nice stepping stone for him.
Yeah, I think it's a real opportunity to play the youngsters. I completely agree with that. Probably with a handful of seniors to, essentially solidify things. I'd put Begovic back in goal, for instance. Maybe Vestergaard, if he's coming back from injury, it makes sense. Your suggestion on Daka again makes sense. If he can bag a couple of goals, maybe it won't do him any harm in terms of confidence. Maybe the fact that he's in the shop window might even help us move him on. Who knows? But yeah, ultimately it's about blooding the youngsters in and giving them experience. And I think this seems to me a great opportunity to do that. I think there's always a risk, though, isn't there, by going slightly weaker, that if we go down 2 or 3-0, that's not going to do any use for the confidence among the squad. So we've still got to turn up and maintain a good level of performance and make sure we put a good shift in, and hopefully that then gets us a result. So there is a risk that if we turn up and we play like we did the other night, that we won't, and we'll go down to a League Two side, and it's a potential banana skin that isn't going to do us any good in terms of confidence. So yeah, it could be definitely a positive as long as we turn up and take it seriously and put a shift in.
Absolutely, and they certainly will need to put a shift in. Rob, there was one thing that Johnny just said actually, which has just triggered a quick question, and that is for those players who are in the shop window, and that's an interesting comment because you've got the likes of Winks, for example, who surely is in the shop window, maybe a walk past. Do we play them? Do we throw them in? 2 players who should easily be able to play in a game like that and should walk through it and be a very important player in maybe a second string cup run for the first couple of rounds, possibly. Who knows? Why not throw them in? Because these are players who obviously want away from the club for various reasons. They're not going to be playing for the first team for various reasons. Walkbass possibly as a substitute. So, is there any harm in playing them, or do we want to go? If we're going to go with a youth side, or should I say a younger side, blooding some youth, will it harm them by having a few sulky old men alongside them?
Yeah, I think so. I think it would harm Marty Cifuentes' reputation with the fans as well. If he's decided that Harry Winks has not got the right attitude or whatever it is that's the reason that he's been left out of the side. If you're trying to get rid of Harry Winks and Wout Faes in this transfer window, you need to put together a compilation video that does not include any footage of them playing this season or last season. What you need to do is doctor the footage from the Enzo Maresca Championship title winning season to make it look like it's current, and then farm that off to every club and every representative, anybody that's got anything to do with transfers, and get it out to them. I don't think putting them down at a 7,000-seater League Two stadium on a FA Cup third round weekend is going to do anybody any favors. I guess the only way that it could be a positive to bring them in is because the squad is quite thin. And if you don't think that there are if I say you being Marty Cifuentes, if he doesn't think that there are enough young players to come in, or if they're not ready yet to come in, and he wants to protect some of the seniors, I'm thinking central midfield is the big area, because you've literally only got Skip and James, with Ramsey out, Samari out, and heavily linked with a couple of clubs over the last couple of days in the gossip columns. Page could start in there. But you might, if he put Winks in there, it surely would only be to protect James and Skip. There's a good comment just literally just coming in, which was going to be my next point from Harder Than Ever, saying they would be pelted by the fans. Absolutely, they would. There's no way Harry Winks or Wout Vass get the ball away at Cheltenham, and however many hundreds of Leicester fans have got tickets for that game, don't absolutely give them a huge amount of stick. I was looking at this for my preview article will be on foxake.news shortly after this show has finished, and I was looking in the academy at players that we might not necessarily have seen yet in the first team picture, because I think we're probably going to see Aluko, Page, Thomas, Monga. Remember Michael Golding, who we signed from Chelsea? He made one appearance in the Premier League for Leicester last season. He's made one senior appearance for Chelsea in the FA Cup. I think it was this time a couple of years ago, maybe. So he's been playing regularly in a variety of central midfield positions for the under-21s this season. The lad's 19. We're not exactly pulling a very green 15, 16-year-old out there. I would much rather see him start in central midfield than Harry Winks.
Absolutely. Yeah. And certain players need a rest. I'd be shocked if we see the likes of maybe a Skip and Jordan James as well. Again, just to highlight for foxay.news, a lovely piece about Jordan James will be on there very shortly from my good self. A little bit of an alternative view and look towards the impacts that the loanee has made at the King Power this season, and hopefully you'll enjoy that on foxay.news. I agree with the goalkeeper situation. I think this is a chance for Begovic, and also because of his age, I'll throw that in as well. But even if he wasn't, I'd still probably make the same comments, because the difference between, at the moment, Starchek, who's great in the week, but because the difference between them is actually a little bit narrow, isn't it? Normally you have a real solid first team goalkeeper and the reserve maybe is down here. I think the gap between them is quite narrow, so it's good for him at his age as well to get 90 minutes as well. So just in case he needs to come in, if there is a downturn in form or for whatever reason, that the manager decides wants to make a change at the back or right at the back with the goalkeeper. Elsewhere, I think we're in agreement that a lot of youth coming through, but normally on the preview, Rob, we talk about players who have played for both clubs. I have one, Jono, Cheltenham and Leicester. Anyone?
No, I know we mentioned this just before we started the call, and I confessed I was really struggling to think of anyone, to be honest. That I'm sure there must be a bunch of players that have played for both, but yeah, off the top of my head, I can't think of any.
Well, I was going down. There's going to be a lot of players who have probably been sent on loan to Cheltenham, so that would have been my angle, really. The only person I know that Bobby De Cordova-Reid played for Cheltenham. He was on loan there once early on in his career. Now, where that came from the depths of whatever hazy knowledge I've got about football. And again, you can read that at foxay.news regarding Jordan James, the depths that I go to when trying to put a little story and the kind of tangents that they go off on. Rob, you've got a more complete list.
Well, yeah, because this is a segment of the show that I actually do the research for, and then I just throw everybody else under the bus and say, "Go on, try and name them." Now, according to this website may or may not be totally accurate, but it only does the stats from the Premier League era onwards. If this is correct, then Pete, you've pulled an unbelievable shout out here. Now, I've known you for many years now, Pete, and you have got a brain full of completely ridiculous football knowledge. According to this, Bobby De Cordova-Reid played one match for Cheltenham Town with a total appearance time of 2 minutes. If that is absolutely true, and he's only played 2 minutes for Cheltenham Town, then that is your best shout ever. Let's have a look. There is another.
Hang on, one second. I can just hear the cheers in the background. Thank you. I'd like to thank my family, first of all, my colleagues, my friends, everyone at foxsake.news, and and the academy as well. Thank you very much, Karen.
Yeah, you're welcome. There is another current Leicester City player who had a spell at Cheltenham 4 years ago. That's Aaron Ramsey. He had a spell there in 2021.
Okay.
But then, Yeah, as is usually the case in this segment for regular viewers of the preview, they get found, these players, in the doldrums of the mid-noughties when we were rubbish. So I can go through the list because there are only 9 on this list. Curtis Davies, Elvis Hammond,
God.
Johnny Hayes, Barry Hales, Darren Kenton,
Barry Hales, wow,
Josh Lowe, and James Wesolowski. Now, Josh Lowe, the only thing I can remember about him was he was too tall to be a winger and he was too slow to be a winger. The only good thing about him playing out wide was because we were so bad at football during the time that he was at the club that they used to try and ping diagonals to him from goal kicks. And most of the time he wouldn't even win it in the air despite being 3 or 4 inches taller than the fullback. That's the only thing I can remember about him.
We've got some tremendous. There's some great names. That's an era that I kind of pass over. Okay, you give me 90s, and then obviously in the from 2010 onwards, and with the top 100 players that we're going through that I've sorted out and trying to sort out, whether a player who played pre-World War One, where that sits alongside someone from the late 80s David Pleat era. It's very difficult. Head to forfox8.news to find that out. But in that era, there are some great names, and you have pulled out like three absolute highlights. 3. One of them you've mentioned already. One is Barry Hales, right?
I was about to say that. He's such a good shout because he's probably played for Leicester and probably everyone else. So he's probably a shout every week on this, to be honest.
Barry Hales, he had a lot of support. Come on, Barry. I think it's his name as well. Like, come on, Baz. A lot of goodwill went towards him because he wasn't good enough. Elvis Hammond, right? First of all, he was not a professional footballer. Okay, he was an athlete rather than a footballer. There are athletes out there who pretend to be footballers. He was one. Absolutely awful, just awful. But the number one on my hit list of worst players of all time who's played for Leicester City, most people kind of veer towards the Junior Lewis's or maybe an Akinbaye, maybe a big signing who didn't work out. No, mine is Lowe. He is the worst, okay? Josh Lowe, he is the worst because, as you said, the guy was built. He had big, broad shoulders, 6 foot something, a winger, and he was scared of the ball. He was actually scared of the ball. He used to ping these diagonals over, and he never won a header. He was awful. First of all, he was awful as just a general footballer. He couldn't trap a sandbag. He was dreadful. But the one thing with him, he was scared of the ball, and yet he was built like an outhouse. Oh, like he is the worst. He's number 1 on my hit list, and that hit list. We've all got our favourite worst players of all time. I'm thinking of an article right now for Fox8.news. I'm going to do a deep dive on Josh Lowe. Here we go. But yeah, some great names out there. But Barry Hales, my mate Big Dan, he'll be loving that shout.
Andy from For Fox's Sake, who has decided to log into the For Fox's Sake socials rather than his own, but it must be you, Andy, because it's not me or Pete. Says Hammond features in the on this day post today. So have a look at our socials if you haven't had a chance today. You'll see something related to Elvis Hammond. I'll be honest, I've been at work today, so I haven't seen the socials yet, but Elvis Hammond's on there. Shall we finish with a prediction? Blue Fox Forever has come in and said, evening, will this game finally produce a clean sheet? Don't be daft. Ooh. Come on. We can't even, there's no way we can stop Cheltenham scoring. No way.
No, I don't think so. No. It's got, again, from the industry I'm from, both teams to score it written all over it with Leicester. And it's funny, actually. It's quite nice actually having that little 5 minutes of talking about these sort of players because they are struggling. Let's be a bit realistic here. Leicester should go there, and even if they do play a 6 or 7 youngsters, remember the quality of the youngsters that we're talking about, alongside the likes of a Yannick Vestergaard, for example. Just when we were talking about players who maybe been discarded from the side who should play, it should be that sort of game where someone like a Winks and a Vash should play in. But I agree. I've kind of gone a whole 360 on it because I was going to say put them in because it shows people that they're there, they're playing, they can play. Oh yes, we forgot about Winks. He plays well. You never know. also to keep his fitness up as well. But I take your point, and I take the point from Harden there, who mentioned about it. I think it would be too toxic, and I'm going to go for a positive result. Okay, I think the youngsters have something to prove. I think they're not indestructible or Teflon to what's going on around them at the football club and the negative atmosphere and the way that we've played, etc. This season, it's not been a great season to be part of a squad. You want them to be part of a league winning squad, for example, or a squad full of confidence. That's not what we have. But I think these youngsters might just go out there and kind of show to us as fans and to the manager, look, we're ready, or we're nearly ready to be first team players. You know, there are issues with the first team. Look what we can do together. Look what certain players can do in certain areas of the field, working as a pair, working as a three in a triangle, etc. And that's what I want to see. I don't just want to see players put here, there, and everywhere. I want to see maybe the whole left side being youth, or maybe two players who have come through the ranks together in the middle of the park, being given a chance to play in the middle of the park, for example, or even at centre half. So that's what I would like to see. I would like to see areas of the field filled by youth, and I'm going to go for a positive result. So I'm going to go for, obviously not a clean sheet, because mad. I'm going to go for a positive. I'm going to go for a 4-1 victory. I'm going to go for Leicester to be in front early, and yeah, the youngsters to turn it on in the underneath the shadows of Presby Park, as I'll be there at Cheltenham in March. But I'm sadly not there this weekend. But yeah, I'm going to go for a 4-1 victory.
I'm going 3-1. I'm not quite as optimistic as you, but I think this is going to be the game that announces Louis Page on the scene. If a Cheltenham FA Cup game can announce you on the scene, but I think he's going to have a hand in all 3 goals, couple of goals and an assist for Louis Page. I reckon 3-1. Jono?
Yeah, I'd like to be as optimistic as that. I think we'll struggle a little bit. I think the youngsters will get put in, but we'll be scrapping and they'll be scrapping, and we'll find it a bit of a struggle. And I think that he probably will load the bench. So the likes of Jordan James and Dakova Reed, people like that will be on the bench just in case. And I think we'll scrape 2-1, but by first teamers coming off the bench. So I think we'll be, I think it will be a struggle, frankly. But I hope it's not. I hope, like you said, that the youngsters turn up, they put on a great display, and they give us all a bit of optimism for, what we've potentially got in the academy and what potentially we've got to come through in the next year or two. So fingers crossed. I mean, Jake Evans is another one that I'd love to see, at least on the bench, if not starting. So yeah, he's been talked about an awful lot. So yeah, I go with what the sentiment that you guys have had, but I think we'll struggle a little bit more than that. But I think we will win eventually. Yannick to win it or something.
With regards to Cheltenham and the standard of football, and you mentioned, Rob, maybe it's the game for someone like a Louis Page to announce himself, if you can, against Cheltenham. And I think that's the angle with these young players, with me, wanting that performance or two to really just go to another level and go, right, from now on, you're that player. And then you get to another level, now on, you're that player. I think this isn't the game, but I want them to play and to score and to assist and to play really well and get the confidence and maybe get the first team place or place on the bench to come off and play in the Championship. But what we want is maybe the next round to be that. And maybe it's a home game against a lower league Premier League side, for example, or maybe a Championship side is going to make changes, and it's given them that chance to have that starting place at the King Power. And who knows, maybe a round further along, we get a decent team come to the King Power, and we say, look, now's your chance. It's on TV, for example. Now's your chance to start and have that performance, or given the platform to have that performance in the FA Cup in 2 or 3 rounds' time, fingers crossed. So, but of course, we've got to get there first, haven't we? But what I want to know, Rob, is what can listeners and viewers too, for Fox's sake, what can they expect on forfoxsake.news regarding this Cheltenham game in the next number of hours?
within the next couple of hours, there will be my regular preview piece, which is 5 things to look out for, which usually kind of sometimes summarizes what we talk about on the preview show and brings in things from elsewhere as well. And then within 24 to 36 hours of the match finishing, you'll get the opposite, the tail end of that. You'll get from Andy Moore 5 things we learned from the game. And believe it or not, they very rarely match up. My things to look out for very rarely become the talking points of there. So there's sort of 10 separate points to look out for there. Yeah, and loads more. I'll just pick up, we'll just finish off really on the fact that the WSL season restarts this weekend. And there was a for Fox 8 Women's Football show recorded this afternoon that will be with you either this evening or tomorrow morning with former Leicester player Chloe Hudson-Jones. And not only is she talking about her time at Leicester and her career with Villa and Liverpool and in Scandinavia as well, but she actually, Leicester's most recent signing, Sarah Maley, on loan from Aston Villa. Chloe actually played with Sarah at Villa a few years ago. So we've got first-hand sort of comments from a former teammate that will be on the show and as part of a separate article in the Leicester City women's section of for Fox8.news.
Yeah, all on for Fox8.news. So head over there. We're still counting down the top 100 players as well. We've done the first section, which is 100 down to 95, and released very soon over the next 24 hours, numbers 94 to 90, and also my piece on Jordan James as well. Plenty more on Fox8.news. So head over there and find out. And of course, it is subscription, and it's £5 a month. It's a pint. It's the price of a pint or a glass of wine. And for that, you get all the coverage on Fox8.news. And of course, it goes to produce these podcasts as well. We'll be back here on for Fox 8 with another podcast. Look out for the Women's Football Show with Lily and all those fabulous guests. And of course, you can look back on them as well. Do make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, but make sure you head over to for Fox8.news as well. Fingers crossed for the weekend, because we want a cup run, don't we?